Welcome to The Winning Edge, the podcast where champions are built and legacies are made. I'm Leonard Wheeler, former NFL player turned entrepreneur of 24 years and co-executive director of the NFL Legends community. After years of being on the field, I've learned that the real game starts when the stadium lights go out. This show is your all-access pass to the mindset, strategies, and leadership lessons that fuel success beyond sports. Each week, we will dive into what it truly takes to win in business, leadership, and life. We'll discuss how elite athletes, game-changing entrepreneurs, and industry leaders turn discipline into dominance and setbacks into comebacks. The next play is yours. Hello again, everybody, and welcome to the Winning Edge podcast. My name is Leonard Wheeler. It is a pleasure for me to be here with you on this 10th episode. So today we're going to talk about something that I believe is very, very important. It's a foundation of building the currency of relationships, and it's called trust. Building on trust, the currency of relationships. Okay, so we're even thinking about this topic, right? I have to ask you a couple of questions before we get started. What's your trust account looking like today? So what is your trust account? So when you think about your bank account, you think about your withdrawals or deposits. What is your trust account looking like today? Let me just ask you again. What is your trust account looking like today? Just like you trust in your bank account, you know exactly what's there. We know exactly what's in our trust account as well, in terms of how much do we want to trust, how much do we want to lend our trust, how much do we want to withdraw from our trust account, and how much have we deposited into the trust account. Because believe it or not, I believe that people make more withdrawals than they do deposits when it comes to creating a trust account. So everyone wants to be trusted. That's number one. Everyone believes that they are trusted. Everyone wants to believe that they are trusted. This becomes the problem, though, is that you believe, or I believe, that everybody should trust me and that I'm trustworthy, not understanding that the people that I'm wanting to trust me could have just come out of a untrustworthy relationship to where now the boundaries and the guardrails are up and surrounding them like a fortress, but we're expecting them because we're so great and we're so trustworthy. We expect them to just trust us, not knowing if they should or if they shouldn't. So we also understand that trust takes years to build and seconds to break down. And it takes forever to repair. So it takes years to build. There are relationships that I've had since I was a kid, taking years to build. There are trusts have taken seconds to break down, and it takes forever to repair. I mean, you can go into different relationships, friendships, marriages. I always talk about trust equals consistency plus integrity plus vulnerability. So let me just break it down. So when you have consistency, you do what you say every time, not just when it's easy. So consistency in building trust is doing what you say every time, not just when it's easy. Case in point, sometimes I tell my wife that I'm not going to say this or say that anymore, and I revert back to the past and maybe say something that I said I wasn't going to say or how I was going to say it, and it now knocks down the trust factor. Does that make sense? So I've now broken the consistency that I've built or that I felt like I was building upon to build a secure foundation in terms of home, the trust factor home, not home as what we're living in. What about you though? Where are you inconsistent? Now, if you're saying this, oh, I am never inconsistent. I am always so consistent. I never ever go back on my word. I don't ever say anything that I said I was gonna. Then you're a narcissist. Let me repeat myself again. If you believe that you are always consistent and that you are always trustworthy and you never go back on your word or you never say anything, then you're a narcissist and you're a perfect human being. And that is, you can be mad at me all you want, be mad at yourself, because that's part of the problem. Is that if you think everybody else is always wrong and you're not, then that's a problem. Let's go to number 2. Integrity. You make the right choice even when no one's watching. That's trust. I'll give you another case in point. If your kids tell you that I want to go to a movie and you tell them, go ahead, without asking a lot of questions, a plethora of questions, that's trust. They built the trust factor in terms of allowing you to give them the autonomy, the freedom to move. If my wife says to me that I'm going to get a massage, I'm not going to try to put a pin on her to make sure I know where she is. I'm going to trust her. That's integrity. Vulnerability. You admit mistakes and remain open to feedback. Oh, I have friends that would tell me that their wife would never say, I'm sorry. Or I have friends to where their husbands will never say, I'm sorry. They never admit they're wrong. What is the problem? Where did this come from? Listen, it takes a lot of freaking dying to self to say I'm sorry. So I'm not talking as if it's easy. But what I am saying, what's more important? You have to live with the person and yourself, and then you're not even able to say, I'm sorry or forgive me. I made a mistake. You know what? I'll do better next time. Gosh, you know what? I blew it. If you can't admit and say those small words, then there's a problem. Back to what I said earlier. There's some narcissism going on right now to where you believe that everything you say out of your mouth is gold, and it's not. Like, let's just all be real with ourselves, because if not, if someone's not real with you, you're gonna keep thinking that the smoke you're blowing is okay. Anyway, if people can't trust you in a small detail, being on time, keeping your word, they won't trust you in the bigger responsibilities. It's not gonna happen. If people can't trust you in the small things, they're not gonna trust you in the bigger things. Scripture talks about in Luke 16:10. It talks about who is faithful in what is least is faithful also in much. He who is faithful in what is least is also faithful also in much. If we can't be trusted with the small things, my wife and I were just talking about it this weekend. If God can't trust you with a little money in terms of tithing, charity, giving back, serving other people, why would he trust you with $1,000,000? You frown about giving away $30 or $50, and he's supposed to trust you with $1,000,000? What? How is that even possible? Anyway, let's just, I talk about my background. I played in the NFL for 8 years, but I played college football and high school football and middle school football and little league football and pee wee football. And in all of those different levels of playing sports, I had to be trusted to do my part. I had to be trusted on the field. The linebackers had to trust me. The D line had to trust me. The coaches had to trust me. The owners had to trust me. The GM had to trust me. The president had to. There are always different levels of people that are having to trust you. Are you not breaking the chain at any point in your own life? I'm asking you to recognize if you're breaking the chain. Now, since we're on the word of being broken or breaking, trust is hard to earn. It is. It takes work. Nobody should just trust you because you think they should trust you. I can share so many moments when people broke my trust, opportunities that I take to people, and they don't add me into the success of the opportunity. Broken trust, hard to rebuild. And this morning I was with my good friend Anthony Barrero at South Charlotte Hyundai. He's a owner over there. And Anthony trusts me, and I trust him to feed into each other's lives. He also trusts me to work with his people, with his leaders. Why should he trust me? Why does he trust me? Why do I trust him? Right? That is something that had to be built upon. It wasn't just from the beginning, I'm going to trust you because you say I should. There's a cost that's associated with trust. So what did it cost? Like when you think about breaking friendship, a broken friendship, what did that cost you? An opportunity? Did it cost you a peace of mind? Think about it. Think about friendships that's been broken in your life. What did it cost you really? A broken heart, broken mind, peace of mind. Were there warning signs? What did you learn from it? Are you this person? I don't care. I didn't care about them anyway. Oh, I don't even care. What? What do you mean? Surely you cannot be that paralyzed emotionally to not have feelings. And I'm sure that you have feelings, but what happens is that a lot of times when we've been hurt so much, and I'm going to talk about this in a second, is that we start to guard ourselves and we start to tell ourselves in our self-talk that it doesn't matter, I don't care. But you do care. But think about a time and share a time when maybe you broke someone's trust. Intentionally or unintentionally, because I know some of you are amazing and you've never broke anybody's trust. And oh my God, I can't think of a time I've ever hurt anyone. Like I'm always so good and I'm always so aware. Stop lying to yourself. Please. Oh, please stop lying. Because no one's always so amazing or we don't need Christ. If we were so great, we don't need a serving God that continues to heal our brokenness. He's a healing God. He heals our brokenness because we are broken at times, all of us. Anyway, there's some reminders that, sometimes when you're not honest about the space, you can feel that you're winning short term. It's a short term win, manipulating yourself because you're given half truths. But you always pay long term interest on broken trust. Let me repeat that. If we're not honest about where we are, about where we're not, you'll feel that you're winning short term. You feel that you're winning in the present moment with the manipulation, the half truths. But in the long term, you will lose because of broken trust. Hey, let me just tell you, If you are looking at this and if you're watching this, if I've ever hurt you, I am so sorry. And if you want me to say I'm sorry to you, I will say I'm so sorry. I am an imperfect person, and does not give me an excuse. I promise you, I'm not using that as an excuse. But I am saying that if I've disappointed you and if I have hurt you in any way, I am sorry. And please forgive me. And that is one of the things that I know I have to do a better job of is admitting wrongs, admitting bad acts or responses. Um, but anyway, let's go to segment 3. How to rebuild trust. So we talk about the framework of building trust, just like building a house. You create a blueprint, you create the frame for the home. The same thing happens when you're building trust. One is that you have to acknowledge. You have to acknowledge that the trust was broken. 2, you have to apologize. And then 3, you have to act consistently so that the people or the person can understand that this is not just some manipulating excuse, but that you're sincere about your apology. So, number 1, acknowledge the damage is done. No excuses. I'm sorry. 2, apologize with sincerity. Let it cost you. Let it cost you some discomfort. That's part of the problem. We don't want to be uncomfortable. So we don't apologize because we don't want to be uncomfortable. Let it cost you a little bit to be uncomfortable. If you broke the trust, why should you be comfortable? And then act consistently. Over time, trust is rebuilt, not just restored. It's rebuilt consistently, 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 consistently. But give people grace, including yourself. Because let me tell you, you're only human, and sometimes we're going to say dumb stuff and act in dumb ways. I'm not talking about something that is not restorable. But sometimes I think because you feel and because you've been so hurt, you don't sometimes give people grace. You know, Proverbs 22:1 says, a good name is more desirable than riches. To be esteemed is better than silver and gold. So a good name is worth more than silver and gold. So a good name is more desirable than riches. A good name is more desirable means that that people have put trust in the name. Rebuilding isn't about one big gesture. It's about small decisions made consistently. What about rebuilding trust with your kids? What about rebuilding trust with your coworkers or your spouse? It starts with humility, not strategy. So don't think about it in terms of strategy, in terms of building trust. You start with humility and saying, gosh, you know what? I blew it. Man, I'm sorry. And then just share practical languages for apologies. I'm sorry. I understand the impact. I'm sorry. I didn't understand the impact. Can you please tell me more? Here's how I'm changing. I want to give you some application in terms of what I'm willing to do better. That's so much, and I mean, how do you trust God in uncertain times? When I think about my coaching business and when you're working with people like Martin Walsh and people at Capital One, Michelle and uh, people that I've worked with over the years, I think about these people allowing me to come in, and even the people I work with in the NFL office, Tracy Perlman, Laura, Malfi, and Matt and Troy, and Chad. And I think about, there's no playbook for trust. The only playbook we have for trust is God's word. And he talks about trust all the time, trusting in God, trusting in God. But there's no playbook that we go to every second of the day and open it and say, this is what it says. This is the full playbook about trust. You know, there are seasons that we all go through that we don't know to open up, or we forget to open up God's playbook. And what God does a great job of is whispering the plays in our ear or to our heart, to our spirit. You know, Abraham in Hebrews 11:1, it talks about Abraham and how Abraham, Hebrews 11:8, I think it talks about it. Hebrews 11:8 or 9. Abraham, God told Abraham to go. Abraham didn't say where. He didn't know where he was going. He didn't have no coordinates. He didn't have a blueprint. He didn't have a GPS. He didn't have Waze. You know, he didn't have what we have today in terms of how to get from where we are to uptown Charlotte. All he had was faith. Is that he said, how do I trust the one person in my life that has never let me down? And even when God says no, we know that he's not letting us down, but he's protecting us. How do you trust when you have issues trusting? How do you trust God when you have issues trusting everything else or everyone else around you? So before you can trust others or even be trusted, you've got to deal with the pain you've been carrying. Oh, carrying the pain of distrust. You know, for years, I didn't trust my dad. He would say he's going to show up for a game. He never showed up. He came to one high school game. He lived about 15 minutes, 10 minutes from the high school. You know, how do you deal with trust issues when you've been disappointed and let down and you're struggling with insecurities and are always expecting people to leave and lie and disappoint you? Because we know that it builds walls of resentment, of bitterness. It builds walls of uncertainty and suspicion. Um, you know, I think we've all been betrayed before. Um, you know, and I've been around a lot of people where it said, man, I don't trust anybody. I'm trusting myself. I don't trust anybody because people always let me down. Okay. I can't tell you what to do in that situation because I don't know to what extent you're speaking of. But what I do know is this, is that there's a forgiving God that we have to learn to not try to carry around all of those wounds and all of that hurt because it's so heavy. It's so heavy. And it's not a lot of wisdom when we said, I'm never going to trust anybody because you want people to trust you. That is what's so funny, is that you want people to trust you as if you never let them down. But yet, you're never going to trust anybody. Maybe you can tell me how that works. Psalms 34:18 talks about the Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. And he says that he saves those who are crushed, crushing, like crushing grapes, like crushing in spirit, to where your spirit has been rejected and you feel that there's no hope at times. So what happens is that you decide not to trust. Well, God is not speaking about the brokenhearted because he doesn't understand it. I want you to think about when Christ died on the cross and we, Gentiles, Jews and Gentiles, were cursing him and saying, you deserve this. How brokenhearted do you believe his father felt for him? Do you believe that he was crushed in spirit? Do you believe that every time we disappoint him, that he's not crushed in spirit, but yet all we're thinking about is how everybody else hurts us, and you don't believe that you've ever hurt anyone or hurt him? I do know that healing takes time, and unresolved trust issues don't just protect you, they also poison what could be good. Let me repeat that. Unresolved trust issues just don't protect you. They also poison what could be good, because you are going to miss out on it because you're not trusting people that God could be putting in your life. So what I tell people is this: we have to seek counseling. You have your pastor. I know I have my great pastor friends that I love, my brother Reggie Rice, James, that I speak to often. There are people that I can go reach out to. I'm around my friends like Gino and Tut, or Steve Schimbaum, or my brother Rich. There are people, my brother Anthony or Jeremy. There are people that I can reach out to, or my boy Bump. There are people I can reach out to that are even my baby, my spouse, or kids, because they love the Lord. Where sometimes I can talk to them about certain issues. Not about every issue, because every issue is none of your business. I'm kidding. But God is not like people who failed you. You know, 1 Peter 5:7, it talks about it says, cast all your anxiety on him because he cares for you. Cast. It means put it, cast it, put it in, go for it, put it all on me because I care for you. So I'm going to close here. I love talking about trust. I believe that it is really the currency of all relationships. Um, do you know who trusts you right now? Do you know who's trusting you and why? So this is just a quick check-in. Do you know who trusts you and why? Do you know what deposits you've been making into other people's trust accounts? Man, I need to get better at that. Gosh, I just feel like sometimes when I want to make deposits into the account, either I feel like I've done too much, or I feel like I haven't done enough, or I feel like, well, what difference does it make? Or I feel like, have I, like, I don't know. Sometimes I'm in such a place of despair in my own head to where I don't know if I'm making deposits or withdrawals. No, I know, I'm kidding. But anyway, I know if I'm making deposits or withdrawals, but what I want to do better at is making deposits. Do you know how to take one step today to repair broken trust? It could be with your mom, it could be with your dad, your spouse, your kids. It could be with yourself. It could be with some friends. Do you know one step that you can take today to repair broken trust? So I want you to take 5 minutes after this episode and write down 3 names of people who you trust and how you plan to show up for them this week. So write down 3 names of people who you trust and how you plan to show up for them this week. Then ask yourself, am I trustworthy in the eyes of God? And am I putting my full trust in him first? And am I trustworthy in the eyes of people? Remember, just like Abraham, he had radical trust. In Hebrews 11:8, it says, by faith, Abraham then called to the place he would later receive as his inheritance, obeyed and went, even though he did not know where he was going. Listen to this. By faith, when called to go to the place he would later receive as his inheritance. So think about it. He was called to a place that later he would receive as his inheritance. And yet, because of his obedience, he went, even though he didn't know where he was going. Okay, I'm done. Think about this. That's radical trust. All he had was God's promise, and that was enough. Sometimes all we have is God's word that we are enough. And what I want to leave you with is, in life, your greatest calling might not be to be understood. It might be to be trusted by God, by others, and by yourself. I want to thank you so much for joining me for this episode. I look forward to hearing from you. Please let me know if there's anything else I can do better in terms of serving you. If I've hurt you in any way, and if I've broken that trust in any way, I'm so sorry. And if it was unintentional or unintentional, I'm sorry all the more. But God bless you. I look forward to seeing you next week. And until then, be good. Peace. Thank you for tuning in and listening to this week's episode of The Winning Edge. You can write in and ask your questions on my Instagram page at Leonard Wheeler 7, and I will address your questions on an upcoming episode. If this episode helped you, I would love for you to share it with your friends, colleagues, and family. Share the episode with those that you feel can benefit from it. You can also follow me on Instagram, TikTok, X, and LinkedIn, found in the show notes. I would greatly appreciate it if you would rate and review the show on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Subscribe now and let's build your legacy.